And welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. It's 419-794-3030, online, americasretirementheadquarters.com. Guys, this month, KFC is celebrating the 70th anniversary of the first Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise located not in Kentucky, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Here's a fun fact about its founder, as told by Justin Nunley on TikTok.
Listen, did you know that Colonel Sanders was 65 years old when he first started trying to sell his chicken? And he was told no 1,009 times before he was finally told yes? Well, now you do. And in other words, don't let age, the fear of rejection, or other people's opinions stop you from doing what you know you're great at doing. Go be great.
So again, I'm grateful for him. 65, so when people are already entertaining or even in retirement there, do you guys have clients who found they like to work in retirement and maybe have even made it into a dependable income stream?
Well, I got to tell you, first of all, we'll get to that question in a second. KFC, it is like there's none better, right? So I'll tell you this quick story. A lot of the listeners already know, but my daughter playing travel softball, and we traveled all over the place. And we'd always go to Columbus 2 or 3 times a year, right? And on the way back from Columbus, we would always stop, and just my daughter and I, and we would get KFC. And they came out with the famous bowl. So as we're driving, just so you're all aware, she would actually spoon feed me KFC while we're driving down the road, right? So she goes to college, and one of the things we missed was actually stopping those 2.5-hour ride home where we really did a lot of bonding. We kind of missed out on that. Well, every time I would go visit her at Kent State, we had to go to KFC, which was really, really cool. And that's my KFC story. Nolan, you got a story? Or
Well, yeah, it was not that long ago. So we grew up, the family, we love KFC. I think it's actually been quite a few years since I had KFC, but my son's senior year, he was taking a trip south with some of his high school friends for that traditional, Florida trip before they all move off to the world. And, my wife has this app on her phone where she can track exactly where he's at. And I just remember her coming to me. She's like, where are they going? They're way off course. What are they doing? It was down in Kentucky. Well, yes, the first franchise was there, but down in North Corbin, Kentucky, that's where the founder set up his cafe. So they were getting off the 75 Expressway to stop by the Colonel Sanders Cafe there there. It was open from back in 1940 time frame. So yeah, always good stories about that. But that is a common question I think that we get. People oftentimes when they're looking at moving into retirement time have that question about knowing where they're at in retirement time and wanting to know, does working after retirement affect things like Social Security and what impact it does have on it. What I found is that clients sometimes they want to transition into retirement time because they want to slow down, not make it a sudden transition.
Sure.
And then also sometimes they like to have income in retirement. But folks, I think there are traps that you have to watch out for, and there's mistakes that can impact your Social Security as well as your health care costs that you need to be aware of. But Scott, you've probably ran into a handful of people too that have looked at working in retirement time and made it into a dependable income stream.
Oh, I run into a lot. One that comes to mind right off the top is Captain Will. We went out on our fishing trip, and Captain Will is a great guy. If anybody ever wants to do a fishing boat charter out on Lake Erie, although I think he is starting to slow down a little bit. He said he might not be doing it too much longer. But Captain Will's an old friend of mine, Will Zemansky, and he's a great guy. And he does that now where he'll actually go out and do a lot of charter fishing trips. He'll get 6 to 8 people out on the boat, and he knows where to go and how to help you jig them up. And he's done that for several years after retiring and thoroughly enjoys it. And that is generating for him a steady stream of that income, and for him, because of it being fishing, it's a dependable stream of income, right? I mean, this is something that people love to go fishing. They charter his services, and away he goes. So that's one that really pops up to top of my mind because he's a great guy and he generates some income doing that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I also know another gentleman that was retired. We had met at one of our conferences in our Ann Arbor office that we were doing a presentation on. And you know what, this gentleman came up to me and said that I retired. Then I found another job, and you know I love this other job. But you know when I retired, I went ahead and I started Social Security. And then I went ahead and started this next job. And I thought, you know, getting that extra Social Security was great because he was going to use it to pay down his debt and eliminate debt. But when he went to file his tax return, he almost got, I think, like a $19,000 tax notification. Because what happened was he didn't realize that working after retirement has an impact on your Social Security. And there's kind of two different phases. So the one phase is if you take your Social Security before your full retirement age. And, you know, for most people, we think of full retirement age traditionally at the age 66.
Right.
It does vary a little bit. But, you know, if you draw your Social Security, say at 62, and you continue to work and you make more than the income levels, which are currently just under $20,000 a year, what happens in that situation is you end up where you could get taxed on a bunch of Social Security.
Sure.
I met a police officer. She's now retired, but she came in and she was talking to us about retiring early and wanting to look at drawing Social Security. And I was talking about this income limit. She was still going to work, just not work as much, but she was going to be way over this limit. So her strategy was, well, what if I just maximize what I put into my company-sponsored retirement plan? Well, it's not that easy. In fact, working after retirement and still earning income, even if you're going to max out your company-sponsored retirement plan, can have a negative impact on what your Social Security is and can put you in a situation where you get taxed on your Social Security and or, again, could get what I would refer to as penalties for drawing early. This is an area where I think it's, again, really good. I'm not a CPA. We don't file taxes, but we work with a lot of CPAs and tax preparers and have ones that we can introduce you to, too, where you want to map out this plan and figure out where to draw Social Security. I'll tell you another stat. You may know this one offhand because I've talked about it before in the past, and you, if a listener, if you've listened to the show for the past couple of years, you know where this number is. But what percentage of retirees currently are drawing Social Security early? That's, again, before their full retirement age.
That's a really, really high number. It's like 70%.
It is 70%. So good job, Scott. You've been listening. And for those of you who haven't listened to that number, roughly 70% of the people that draw Social Security take Social Security early. So not only working after retirement affects your Social Security, by drawing early, you're actually subjecting yourself to a lifetime penalty because you get a reduction in benefits. Now, in addition to that, I think this is where one of those snowball effects, so a snowball effect that could work against you. Social Security is a countable income source.
Absolutely.
When it comes to your healthcare costs and how to figure that out, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things, that a lot of people are dealing with right now, and the big question is, if I do retire, do I sign up for Social Security? And what do I do for health insurance? Well, like we said earlier in the previous segment, Roth IRA is not reportable income. Social Security is. You know, so you have to weigh the values of that. Is it worth, retiring early to do that? But we also talk about working past retirement. You know, just because your full retirement for Social Security is 66 and 6 months, or depending what year you're born, it doesn't mean that's when you have to stop working, right? I mean, that's your full retirement age to get to be able to actually work and draw Social Security without the penalty, right? Because if you're 66 and 6 months and then you start drawing Social Security and you go out and work, you can make more money than taking Social Security at 62. You know, so you also have to look at the social aspect of it, right? Working past retirement, retiring from a job and then going out and getting something else. You know, I remember my dad, he was a ranger at the golf course. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. He would hang out there. He'd play free golf at the private club on Mondays. And he just absolutely loved it. But it was something that he could do, earn a little bit of money. And I don't even know that it was the money for him at that point of his life. It was more getting out and seeing people, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. So there's a lot to be said about, staying active and working past retirement.
Yeah, great social benefits. It can be by staying out there, staying active. It's again, it's a matter of kind of figuring out your own situation.
Sure.
And just like everything that we talk about here on our show, it's a matter of mapping out your plan and putting it all together to figure out, what's the pros and cons, and not getting caught or blindsided by some type of trap that's out there. If you do decide to draw Social Security and, you do want to continue to work after retirement time. So we can help you navigate that landscape. Absolutely.
Just like with claiming Social Security, there's so many different variables at play based on your retirement. Maybe it isn't in your plan to retire at all, ever. In which case, we certainly hope that that is the case for you. But occasionally, it is taken out of your hands, whether it is a health situation or job layoffs, things like that. So it is important to go ahead and have a plan just in case. I guarantee you, as we said, Harlan Sanders probably would have been okay had he not hit it big with. We would have known him as well had he not hit it big with Kentucky Fried Chicken. But that worked out for him. But he had that plan put in place, and that's what you need to do as you get into that retirement red zone, as we talked about earlier. Figure out what's going to work best for you and how, if you decide to keep working, you can do that. If you decide to go ahead and call it a day, you could do that as well and avoid having to unretire. 419-794-3030. That's how you get the ball rolling. Get started with that. 419-794-3030. Online, americasretirementheadquarters.com. As we wrap up here, I went down a little rabbit hole with Kentucky Fried Chicken. His house, Harlan Sanders' house, is actually for sale earlier this summer. I don't know if it actually did sell or not. I can't find a listing for it or the selling price, but it's a 5,000-foot estate in Kentucky, and it includes the restaurant that's attached to it that still runs, and a recipe for fried chicken. Not the recipe for fried chicken, but a recipe. I have no idea how much they're asking for, but I guarantee it's not something that I could do. But if it's something that, you want that to be part of your retirement plan, well, speak with the guys at America's Retirement Headquarters. Maybe they can make that work for you. 419-794-3030. Want to thank you so much for joining us today. As we always do, really do appreciate you taking the time to spend with us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. Please have a great week ahead of you. Have a safe week ahead of you. And guys, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Well, I think Ray Charles seems appropriate this week when we're talking about working in retirement time, which is hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
No more.
So have a great week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back same time right here on Toledo's largest talk station, 1370 WSPD. And check out all of our other podcasts on any format that you like. Just type in America's Retirement Headquarters. Get all of our information. And just remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters, here, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates.